Thanks for coming back. This is good. I did mention this before, but was it last Tuesday that they had the practice round?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Last Tuesday, all of these teams went to the local business incubator known as the Ferdy Lab incubator, and they delivered their presentations, practice presentations, in front of a group of 30 to 40 random people who had no idea what they were going to see. And they got some really interesting questions, they got some good feedback, and they got some good practice. So we are trying to get integrated with the community, and that was one good way to do it, was throw them out in front of people that had no idea what they were going to do. And that was awesome to watch them present and learn from that experience. This next group is pretty self-explanatory based on the title there, so I'll let them take it away. But I just want to say thanks to the folks. There's 4 folks from OHSU who have come down today for this presentation, so no pressure, guys. And very happy to have we call it the early stages of a partnership and relationship with Oregon Health Sciences University to work with things that come out of there that have a need for commercialization research, it's called, that's what we do. So I'll let you guys take it away, but good luck.
Okay, hello, my name is Ann Freeby, this is Ryan Cutter, Ty Vanderbilt, and Ruth Savoni, and we are partnered with Oregon Health and Sciences University to investigate new applications for a new dry blood spot collection device we've developed. Today, we're going to be discussing current dry blood spot or DBS sampling technology and how the OHSU device is better. We're also going to be going over the secondary research we did on new applications and competitors that the device will face when entering the market. And we also have a couple recommendations and potential next steps for the OHSU team. Currently, dry blood spot sampling technology is mainly used for neonatal genetic screening. It's the heel prick they do to babies to determine if they have any kind of diseases. It can also be used for adults. It involves taking a lancet and pricking one's finger and depositing the blood onto a stenciled circle onto a piece of filter paper and letting the filter paper dry for 3 hours, and then the filter paper is deposited in an envelope and mailed to a laboratory where it's hole punched out and analyzed. It can be used to detect the presence of a lot of different drugs and metabolites, but it has some serious limitations. The biggest one being that it doesn't account for hematocrit variations in patients. Basically, every person has a different amount of red blood cells, and it makes their blood vary in thicknesses, which means that the blood deposited in these circles varies and the volume is unknown. With an unknown volume, it also means that only the presence of a drug or metabolite can be detected and not the amount of that drug or metabolite. Also, it's easy for there to be human error, because if the sample is touched, then the whole thing has to be redone. The OHSU product addresses these limitations. It was developed by Dr. Amira Al-Azuri. She wanted this product for her pediatric kidney transplant patients. These patients have to take immunosuppressants regularly and get their blood tested regularly to make sure that kidneys aren't rejected. And currently they have to go into OHSU and sometimes travel long distances to get their blood venously drawn. She wanted a device that could be mailed into OHSU, was easy to use because her patients are children, and could be used to detect the amount of the immunosuppressants. Currently, OHSU is partnered with Simplexity and Octree and Allegory for funding and engineering. And their device, as you can see up there, is about a business card shaped, and it addresses the hematocrit limitation by collecting a known volume of blood for every sample. And by collecting a known volume, it also allows for the amount of a drug to be detected, and it's covered in a plastic coating, so it prevents the touching issue. They have filed a provisional patent and will start preclinical trials next week, and are currently looking for new funding sources, and we are partnered with them to investigate some new applications for the device beyond pediatric kidney transplant patients. These are just some other views of what the device looks like.
All right. And so then, because of the unique position that our technology was in when we started this project, that being they were working on their provisional patent, part of that because of the new first-to-file system, rather than first to invent, is the strategy that lawyers or that you need to go into is not tell anyone anything about your product, except for the people that need to know. Just because we want to have as little information released as possible. So because of that, and the unique position we're in as students, we decided that we could do a lot of work for them without actually necessarily doing a lot of primary research, that being on the product itself, testing with consumers. So the work we did was on secondary research, that being what new markets could this product go into, searching for what markets could use blood sampling, or what markets could use, they're using blood sampling, could then convert over to dried blood spot sampling. So then some of the markets we identified are back on the screen: biotechnology and biomarking. Biomarking being, that has actually two definitions. One is genetic identification. The main one we looked for was just using organic, like tracking organic compounds within the blood that can relate to chronic diseases or other health factors. Drug development, preclinical testing, preclinical being testing animals for drug development, for efficacy and, I guess, commercialization purposes. Veterinary practices, Veterans Administration, unique systems, and processes that are involved with the VA hospitals. Point of care at home, this being the intended use of the product, being able to take a sample in your home and then ship it to a medical institution to have testing done. Sports testing, as we've seen recently in the last couple of years, Alex Rodriguez, etc. PEDs and drug testing, how do they measure those in the blood? Criminal drug testing, nonprofits such as the Gates Foundation, who are looking for very specific reasons and want to cure very specific illnesses. And then finally, like handheld devices such as glucometers, which check your blood sugar, and other systems that check cholesterol. So with the three metrics we looked at primarily was one, obviously, is there an opportunity to use this device in the market? Second, how adaptable, the adoptability rate for the consumers to use our product as it was described to us. And third being, would this device, at its price point that we believe it is at, would it be profitable in this market to consumers or to the company? So, and then furthermore, there are two companies currently that have a non-DBS card, like the non-DBS paper, but are actually another device that's looking to cure, or not cure, but to fix some of the problems with the traditional technology. That being Spot On Science's HemaSpot product and the Mitra product made by Phenomenix. So I'll describe the HemaSpot product. Spot On Science is a small firm based out of Austin, Texas. Their product has patent pending and is used only for research purposes only, so that meaning it's not a clinical diagnostic tool at the moment. Two patentable pieces they have are the HemaSpot, which is the actual full device, and then the HemaForm. We actually have a few samples that Spot On Science kindly gave us. So the HemaForm is that red piece on the diagram. That's what actually is the collection device, the collection material that actually takes the sample. As you see, it's 8 petals, so theoretically you can break them off and have 8 unique samples to then run through liquid chromatography or mass spectrometry, which is what tests for the analyte in the system. Surrounding that piece, that petal system, the HemaForm, is a desiccant, which allows for even drying, and on the application surface acts as a funnel and also as a protector, a barrier against the petals. And all this is encased in this blue casing, which is a moisture, it helps keep a moisture lock on the even drying of the system. The system is supposed to dry in 2 hours, but from our research and from research we did with professionals in the preclinical and pharmaceutical industry, they have tried using this product, but it does not work suitable to fit their needs. They don't like the product, and it has a lot of problems with accuracy, that being the main focus of the product is to tear off a petal, like with tweezers, to put it on a testing surface. So the tearing process actually isn't uniform. So once again, you get variability in accuracy, meaning that this product is really good, can get you a lot, so 8 samples to test just for the presence of something, but it can't actually give you, at the moment, a good accurate sample. And so here's Ruth, our doctoral candidate, we thought would be the most well-equipped to take a really good sample, try to get the highest quality sample we can possibly get, so we wouldn't throw off our test, our one simple test, just to understand how it collects. Here you see her just trying to apply a blood spot after picking her finger, or seeing her reading the directions, making sure we did it by the book. And what you see is that she had a problem actually forming enough blood on her fingertip to make the 105 microliter sample. 105 microliters doesn't sound like a lot, like a normal person's blood prick, would be like 2 drops of blood. But actually, with the lanceolus parotid and with just the opportunity, it's actually hard to get enough blood with the finger prick to actually form and saturate that 8-petal hemoform. So this is like the hardest part about just getting enough, getting a good sample, and having probably just someone that's a layman, so we're not phlebotomists, we don't run these samples repeatedly. It's hard to get just a user or consumer to actually get enough blood to form on the fingertip to potentially make a good, solid, testable device.
Thanks, Ryan. So the second competitor that we identified is Phenomenex. It's the name of the company, and they produce something called Micro. Phenomenex is a medium-sized company that has headquarters in California as well as New Jersey. And they actually don't produce microsampling devices. They produce chromatography columns, as well as other chromatography-related materials. However, they saw the value in investing in DBS because it's really widely used in the preclinical pharmaceutical industry. In fact, when you look at the top 10 grossing pharmaceutical companies in the world right now, over half of them use DBS technologies in their projects. Phenomenex saw this value, and furthermore noticed that over the past couple of years there have been national meetings yearly from the top pharmaceutical companies to get together and discuss the current use, limitations, and future directions of DBS technology. Sometime after the 2011 meeting, Phenomenex joined forces with officials from GlaxoSmithKline, Bristol Myers Squibb, Johnson & Johnson, and was able to come up with the Mitra device, which you see here in the corner. So the Mitra device is a pen-shaped device that has this plastic barrel area as well as the absorbent head. The absorbent head is made from a hydrophilic material that absorbs consistently and accurately 10 microliters of blood. Preliminary results acquired by Phenomenex indicate that, in fact, the reproducibility is very high, the accuracy is very high, and given their pre-established relationships with the companies that they involved in the R&D of this product, it's actually, they feel very confident that they'll be able to sell this in large quantities within the preclinical sphere. In fact, they already have a website set up. It came out earlier this year, in I think May of 2014, and they have already provided samples to pharmaceutical officials who we spoke to. Furthermore, we should note that we spoke to a Phenomenex official who indicated to us that while they are not currently FDA approved, they are in the running to become FDA approved in the near future to reach into the diagnostic market. So you see this device much more streamlined than HemoSpot, and by comparing this to HemoSpot to our device, we were able to come up with a comparison chart. Now, what you can see here is several things. First of all, we use these 3 main criteria: the manufacturing price point, the accuracy, of course, of the products, as well as the ease of use, as the 3 main criteria that we need to use for high profitability or high adoptability into the DBS market. And furthermore, what you can see is that within in between our 2 competitors, there are several points of parity and several points of differentiation with our product. First of all, Mitra has an advantage, which is that because they're already on the market, they're being sold, they have a lower price point. They've managed to get that manufacturing point down. In comparison, we are still at a slightly higher price point, meanwhile HemoSpot is somewhere in the middle. However, one thing that I should point out is the accuracy level here. So because, as Ryan mentioned earlier, accuracy is a very big concern within the DBS community, both in preclinical and in the diagnostic world, it appears that we are much more, or have a goal to be much more adaptable because of our high accuracy over the HemoSpot product. In relationship to Mitra, however, this is a point of parity. We're very similar. We aim to be as efficient and as accurate as the Mitra device is, and therefore this is a place where we're actually very similar. However, we anticipate that our product will be significantly more foolproof than the Mitra device is. Believe it or not, it's very difficult, as I showed with the HemoSpot device, to put the drop of blood onto an absorbent filter paper without touching it. It's just it's really, really difficult. Usually it's very hard to get that much blood out of your finger. And we anticipate that our device is going to be very much foolproof, therefore propelling us into a diagnostic market. Very easy to use, very easy for children to use, very easy for patients of a number of medical fields to use. So keeping all of this in mind, then we head into a comparison chart that Brian previously showed to look at our market areas. And what you see is that we have the system of checks and X's. One check and one X is not necessarily equal. So you'll notice that there's a lot of checks, or excuse me, X's in our chart here. However, we were able to identify 3 markets in which there was we saw a high profitability and high adoptability rate for our product. Point of care and at home is clearly going to be the largest market for this product because it's so user-friendly. It's going to be easy for use with children as well as just patients after some sort of transplant, for example, or other medical problem. But we also were able to identify the Veterans Administration and a nonprofit market, which, although have some issues with profitability or adoptability, we identified to still have a nice points of entry for our product. And with that, I'll give it over to Ty to talk about recommendation.
Thank you very much. So, we figured out what dried blood technology is. We figured out the problems that our product solves, but we still have a couple other issues to tackle. One is that our product is lacking immediate funding for further product development. So our recommendations need to come up with a solution that addresses that issue. They also need to address these different market areas that we identified as attractive and not go into a market area that would not be conducive. So going forward, we have 2 different style recommendations. The first one is a service-based model. This model is going to utilize business-to-business as well as business-to-customer points of sale. Going back to this chart on the previous page, this is the point of care at-home section, so we've got high adaptability and high profitability. Our second recommendation is a manufacturing-based business model. This is looking mainly at business-to-business, B2B points of sale. We've identified 2 separate paths. One is through the VA, the other one's through nonprofits, previously identified on the other slide. And because we've got 2 different paths, we've listed this as varying profitability as well as varying market adaptability and penetration. So a little bit more in depth of what those recommendations are. The first recommendation, the service model business. We're recommending that OHSU create a spin-off company. They've done this in the past with success. The other reason we're recommending to do this is that a spin-off company will make that company available to SBIR grants. Currently that's an issue if they're going to stay together as a sub-department of OHSU. The way the business model works is the company will sell the device to pharmacies. The customer or the patient, under the direction of a doctor, will go to the pharmacy, buy the device, take it home, prick themselves, collect that sample, send it in the mail indicating what analytes they wish to be tested for. They'll send that into our centrally located labs, where we will then email or electronically transmit in a secure manner those results back to the patient, as well as the primary care physician for follow-up service. This model provides multiple revenue streams. It's the sale of the device to the patient through through the internet, sale of the device to vendors such as pharmacies, as well as sale of the device to clinics for in-house use. And then those clinics would use their in-house mass spectrometry machines to do the analysis. The other point of revenue is the sale of the service. The patient can select just to be tested for one analyte or multiple analytes, and the payment factor can fluctuate based on what they wish to be tested for. Looking at comparable markets for this sort of business model, the global market for point-of-care devices is estimated to be about $15 billion, and I want to point out these are 2011 data, stats. A subset of point-of-care devices are self-administered at-home testing devices. These are your EPT tests, drug tests, and the one on the bottom right is made by Relion. That's an A1C device testing for diabetes. Those test kits are done at home and the results are delivered at home, so you're not sending that device back in to be tested by someone else. That's an $11 billion market right now, estimated at 2011. And these markets are also growing at 8 to 9% annually, so very attractive markets to get into. Another aspect that our business model incorporates is the diagnostic industry. I want to point out that that the telehealth service industry, so it's another subcomponent of our business model, while only at $320 million, is growing at 50% annually. That's an extremely attractive market that we want to figure out how can we take the advantages of that, the The attractive components with that, and couple that with a $52 billion diagnostics industry, we feel that our model will hopefully incorporate all the positives of these markets. Our second recommendation is to go into manufacturing. We identified two different paths that I said earlier. One was working with the VA. The goal of that partnership would be to use the VA funding to provide product development in the near future, where we would then develop an in-house device. This could be used by phlebotomists, by doctors in the office, and then analyzed using their own machines. We've identified that this path has potential to be highly profitable, but depending on how you set up that initial partnership with the VA, it might be harder for market adoptability. The VA works in a very interesting manner. You can try to go after the entire VA system, in which case if you can get a partnership set up with them, disseminating your product through the whole VA system will be very widespread and profitable, but that'll be more difficult than if you just partner with your local VA, which they are also open to doing, but then getting your product spread out to all VA clinics is a little bit more difficult. The second path is with nonprofits, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the World Health Organization. These institutions are actively looking for for-profit medical technology companies to manufacture devices that suit their needs. So we know that there are grants out there that you can apply for. We would require further research on the rate of adoption of those grants, but we have proven that they do exist at least a prevalent rate. The issue with this business model is that because they are nonprofits, we would have to sell the device at an extremely low profit margin. This would require us to be selling these devices in mass quantity to provide any sort of profitability. So taking a look at manufacturing industry, we see it's at almost a $3 billion a year industry and growing at around 3.5% to 5% annually. So definitely another healthy market that provides some attraction with this manufacturing-based business model. So moving forward, we've identified that medical expenditures are continuing to increase in the country, in the developed world, and in the developing world. Part of that aspect is incorporating or we're noticing that affordable at-home care is a growing field. Our product shows promise within this field, pending the validation of a lot of assumptions that we had to make going into this product because we had not seen the device, because we've been told it is foolproof or we hope it to be foolproof. So our immediate next steps are going to be validating all of those assumptions. That validating process is going to require funding in the near future. So any future steps in the next month or two are going to have to incorporate where is that money going to come from. So with that, we'll open it up to any questions. Yes?
You say that you'll be validating in the near future. If everything comes out as it's expected to, in the positive, everything's validated, aren't you still more expensive than a competitor? Or did I miss that? I mean, it seemed like you were saying that that other device is roughly, or you are 3 times the cost of that other device. So what is the value of having this different device? I mean, there has to be some, I must have missed what the increased value is in your product.
Correct. So our product right now at a price point, just manufacturing-based price point, is more expensive than the Mitra device. They're tackling the preclinical market right now with the goal of getting into diagnostic industries. However, they have no plan that we're aware of how they're going to execute that. Are they going to provide a service with that, with the analysis of the device? Are they going to sell the device straight to hospitals? Our recommendations incorporate a business model that goes above and beyond just here's the pen and go forward and do what you want with it. So we understand that it is a more expensive device, but we feel that the userability, the foolproof aspect of it will outweigh the Mitra sampling device, and that competitive advantage is worth the increase in price.
So with the OHSU product and the 2 competing products, how do you prick yourself? Do you literally have to just prick it, or is there like a pen that shoots out needles and it's instantaneous?
So what comes in, at least the HEMOSpot, what you see here, just a loaded lancet on a spring. We only just got the original patent diagrams, so I actually don't know exactly how OHSU's product is supposed to see it. What I'm assuming is that spring you see is actually a spring-loaded lancet included in the device. For example, HEMOSpot just comes with a little additional spring-loaded lancet. Put on the, have the head direction, put on the pointer fingertip, push, and it makes an incision just to get a chocolate.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I do have to admit that they got to see the pictures this week, because that's what I had. So, thank you, I'm really sorry. Sometimes I'm the bad guy.
My question, when you talked about the marketing of the home products, and your three examples were ones where your results are given at home. But are there other products that right now that you take a sample at home and then you send to a lab?
Correct. So
And how much of the market is that actually?
I couldn't differentiate between, so let me go to that area. I think it was $11 billion was the at-home testing market. And I don't know what subset of that were devices that gave you an immediate result in your house and which ones you had to mail in. I do know that they exist. There are a couple for STD tests, HIV tests. You prick yourself, you collect a sample, and then you mail it into a lab. There are now ones for genetic mapping that utilize that same service model. 23andMe was a perfect example of that. Now they're currently not FDA approved and they had a cease and desist letter. I don't know where they are right now, but we're going to see more of that coming out.
Because I think that's that would be the real interesting part, to see how big that market is, because that one could be viable for that.
We did look into all-in-one devices, basically an electronic PDA device where you put a drop of blood onto it and it spits out your result right then and there. And those devices do exist. They range anywhere from a couple $100 to several $1,000s, and you can pre-program them for what analyte you're looking for. However, because they're a shrunken size, basically they're a mass spectrometer on an ultra small scale. When you shrink it down, you lose a lot of accuracy. So they're being used in preclinical devices and biomarker research studies, but they're not being used widespread now for diagnostic testing. They can't deliver that technology or that accuracy. Our product, at first we thought could be adaptable to it, but we're realizing that there's not a whole lot of overlap. We're a collection device, and that's a sampler, that's an analyzing device.
So in that business model, the home analysis where the sample is sent back to the lab, I believe you said that all the samples would go back to the OHSU lab? Is that correct?
It depends how we want to structure it. Our initial thoughts are the small business, the spin-off business could partner with OHSU and use the overhead on their mass spectrometry machines. Later down the road, they could lease out or utilize extra capacity on large diagnostic labs such as Quest Diagnostics, and eventually acquire their own machines.
I'm just wondering if a scalable business model might be that the sample could be sent to whatever lab is geographically closer, and they could do the analysis.
We looked into that as a possibility. We wanted to keep it in-house so that we can charge that extra fee for the analysis of the device, or of the sample.
Any opportunities in veterinary care? You can circumvent FDA, and it's really that easy to use by pets from
We actually were trying to do that more further. I had a connection, but wasn't, and unfortunately, in the time, we ran out of time to really go into that further with companion animals. But the problem with agriculture, like cattle and other agriculture animals, is that you have to keep prices in. If you have most of these ranches who would do these have large amounts of animals, and they want to keep their price sensitivity is like 20 cents is what they want to do. So there's just no way. And we couldn't establish anything that they'd actually be interested in having something that needs to be hyper accurate to tell certain analytes within livestock. But the companion animal could be a thing, could be a potential market to go into, but once again, we weren't able to identify any specific analytes or biomarkers that companion animal veterinarians or even owners would be interested in knowing.
We did look into it some, and our understanding was the amount of blood samples that are taken in a veterinary clinic aren't at the same level that you're seeing for humans. A lot of that diagnostic medicine is treated in a different manner, where it's like, let's look at the symptoms and see if we can solve it right here in the clinic, versus I'm going to grab some blood and do an expensive test on an animal and then come back a couple days later. It's just a different style of running there.
Yeah. And additionally, we flew around with the idea of potentially, maybe the equestrian horse racing market would be interested in this. But actually found out that horse breeders actually don't want to know what's wrong with them. They don't want to confirm something that might be genetically wrong with their horse, because that makes the potential stud fee go almost, it could make it go to nothing. They can make a $100 million horse. Yeah.
I want to go back to the competitive advantage being foolproof operation. Who benefits from that, and who is going to pay for that? And what did you learn about, reimbursement and willingness to pay, more for this product?
So the main reason that this device was made is because, like the mirror work she does with, I believe, adolescent and young adult patients, the kidney transplant patients. This market subset, one of the major problems with the donors is it's just the amount of repetition you have to go in to get your blood checked for these blood toxicity levels. It makes actually these subsets not really compliant, so sometimes they'll miss going into their appointments, they won't take their own tests. So the idea was to make a foolproof system that didn't need to include professionals, have to take the test to get a really good sample, so they could do it on their own, easy and just mail in. So the burden on their life and their lifestyle after getting their transplant would be reduced and give them the ability to have more freedom.
Okay, so that, a couple of things. So that sounds like a more rarefied market, particular class of patient, smaller than the big, home device market. And then the other thing is, so it sounds like multiple parties benefit from that, not having to repeat the test. So how is somebody going to make the decision to pay for this? And how many somebody like that do you think there are?
We're seeing a price point for our product. If you go into Walgreens, you go into your local pharmacy to buy it, a lot of these at-home testing kits are anywhere from $12 up to $70. We feel that we can put our kit within that price range to be a competitive device.
So it would be a consumer choice?
It would be a consumer choice, but it can also be instigated by the doctor or your primary care physician saying, every 3 months I need you to get a blood sample. Now you can choose to drive on in, waste your whole day, sit in the office, do the 3-hour waiting room spiel only to be pricked by a phlebotomist and then wait a couple more days, or go to your pharmacy, do this at your own convenience at home and then mail it on in. We feel that $50 is worth it for most people, or $20 is worth it for most people, not have to pay the co-pay fee, even if they do have
Right,
insurance.
they see this on the shelf and they see Mitra on the shelf. Okay, what happens?
Right now, Mitra is not available on the shelf, nor do they have, Mitra is not available on the shelf, nor do we see a business model that provides an analysis, an analyzing component with their device.
Also, they can certainly try Mitra, but the problem is that we don't anticipate that it will be foolproof. If you even touch a little bit of your skin, it actually throws off the level. So you can buy a Mitra for, say, the same price or a little lower, and then have to actually do your sample anyways with an actual phlebotomist. If we're providing this foolproof, I think the value proposition is that it's foolproof, and therefore you're really not having to pay extra costs when you do.
Okay, so ease of use is one issue, error rate or compromising the test might be a different issue.
So yeah, the whole purpose of this project was to get into a clinical diagnostic range. So that being, I believe the last number was greater than 90%. So I mean, if they can have anything, it'd be great to have 99%, 100. But the minimum threshold is 90%. Current DBS technology with the cards and the filter paper, they were in the test that Amira ran in developing this analyte to do on DBS technology to check the creatinine levels, which are the blood toxicity for immunosuppressants. They were getting a 1 and 2, so a 50% accuracy rating and a 50% usability. So they would have to take, potentially, every patient would have to take more than 2 samples just to even get one that they could test.
Ease of use is going to correlate directly with the accuracy that we acquire.
So one last question. So have you been able to figure out when accuracy of the type that this device could provide has to be had to be successful versus just an indication that these chemicals were found in this blood sample?
I mean, we identified, how long was that list? There's a very long list of analytes that have to be measured quantitatively rather than qualitatively, simply because they can indicate toxicity. It has to be quantitative, it has a threshold level that you have to identify, or that where the presence is simply not conducive to really giving you any information at all. So, yeah, there's a very long, I can't remember exactly how many, but it's a huge list of analytes that range in a number of different medical fields, psychiatric, pediatric, etc.
All right, well, thank you guys.